not-for-profits gain, teaching kids that self-belief can ease the pain. Every child deserves to face their fears with measured thinking, not just tears. She's planting seeds of strength in every mind. Paulette Harlem, leaving no child behind. When the storm clouds gather and you don't know what to do, take a deep breath, clear your mind, let the answer come to you. Walter's gonna be there in your present and your future too. So just stop and ask yourself, what would Walter do? What would Walter do?
Yay.
Hello. This is a very interesting conversation you were having there, Annie.
I tell you. You know, it's like talking to yourself,
Is
right?
my microphone coming through?
Yeah, I can hear you loud and clear.
Is it a good sound, yeah?
Yeah, it sounds all right.
Cool.
It's you, so it's fine.
Yeah, I know, but I just wanted to make sure it was working because it's a new
toy. Let me see. That makes it blind.
It's another new toy.
Yeah.
Another technical thing for me to muck up. That's what I think.
So is that for your audiobook?
Yes. But I
well,
thought I might as well give it a shot here first.
The tech people will look at you and they will laugh at you and say to you, you need
microphone. I look professional.
You need headphones. You need a whole.
I've got it, but
thing. You need a thing.
I'm not doing that yet.
You need the arm, the arms and the stand, and you know that thing in front of the microphone.
I've got it upstairs. The
setup's
upstairs. It's all done, ready. I look like a loony, but anyway, enough of that.
Good for you. Let's welcome Alexis. Alexis, how are you doing?
Thank you for being here.
So we've got a slight challenge where yesterday LinkedIn had a problem with events, right? So I set up events and they just wouldn't show up. And I have to wait for mine to show up. But no, eventually yours showed up. You know, because yours came after mine. You know, so then yours showed up, but then there were two of them. So I'm hoping people don't start going to the other one.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I worked out which one, so I deleted the other one, and then I kept this one. So let's hope people find this one. This is the link.
I think this is the one that I sent invites out for.
Yes,
so hopefully,
yes, I agree with that. No, that this is the one that had 6 to 9 hours VPs. So it's all good. At least Alexis is here. That's important thing.
Someone found us.
Of course.
Hello.
You know, if you're here as well, say no. Do say hi. Otherwise, we want to know you're here. And so we know you're here, but we don't know who you are. So do say hello. Do say something. Tell us where you're joining us from. Some would say, don't just say anything. You know, say something constructive that might help you if someone sees the comments that you make in the future, which they may well do, right? You know, because everything is kind of linked these days. Paulette, stop looking at your microphone as if it's some sort of...
Can you hear it?
No, I can't hear that. But we can hear you with or without it.
So basically, we could just unplug it and turn it off now. I'll find out why it's not working.
Did I say that?
To date.
Okay, let me find my YouTube because I don't know why Paulette's not.
Right, there you go. Put my toys down. I'll put my toys down and play later. So have we got anybody here?
Yeah,
because it's all about...
Right.
I know
Alexis says cannot hello, cannot locate audio. Oh, Alexis, you must have an audio somewhere. You know, there's audio on my YouTube channel, so everything should be fine. I don't know, Alexis. Check your browser, check your browser, and find out where your audio disappeared to. Anyway, how's life with you, Paulette?
2 more comments from Alexis have just come in. Yeah, fine, as long as we get to a place where it's working and we know what we're doing, everything will be great.
do we ever is a question, right? Do we ever know where we are, what we're doing? Okay, so this is...
I thought you was never going to get rid of that flipping woman from the phone company. I was like, Annie, it's up.
Oh, Paulette. They're sent to try me, right? They're sent to try me. I do my best to be as polite as I can be to people these days because my wife says I'm too narky is the word, right?
I would have said I'm on a bloody call, sod off.
I'm kind, Paulette. I'm kind that way. I'm kind, right? That's all I can say. I try. You heard me try to talk to her sensibly. I know what her problem is. The problem is that they're calling you from a virtual number, an 033 number, which is
anywhere in the world.
Yeah, but which obviously then because the connection is virtual, then it's a bit, it's a bit disjointed. It's a bit.
Alexis cannot locate audio.
Hopefully she will. Yes, I think Josh is here as well. How you doing, Josh? I'm looking at my LinkedIn.
That's the question.
I'm looking at my LinkedIn. So.
Can Josh hear us? Can he give us a thumbs up or a kiss or a hug or something?
Can you hear us, Josh? That's the question.
Can you hear me?
Anyway, it's a day that my phone suddenly started going funny. I don't know. I am baffled by how they build death into our devices. Right.
It's almost like it's done deliberately every now and again just to make you get a new one.
No, really, seriously. So my phone suddenly started going funny. And then the charging ports started going funny. So it started saying that there's liquid inside it, there's moisture inside it. So turn it off, and then so I did that, and then took the phone to the shop, and so the man had to change my device. They had to change the port for a new one. In the process, of course, he broke my antenna, my aerial. So now I can't get calls normally, only with Wi-Fi. So where I had no plans to change my phone, Paulette, now suddenly I have to change my phone because any device actually works, right?
Problem is, if you don't know what you're doing, if you can't get the same one, it's like a year-long process of learning how to work the buttons. Oh,
yes,
I hate it.
Something like that. So of course, part of me blames being in Margate. That's how I know it's time to go home because
could be dust and God knows what else is got in it as well.
I agree. When things start breaking, then you need to make a change.
There has been a lot of dust, so that could have got inside it, like sand does and things. It
could have, but it's unlikely.
Did Josh give us a thumbs up or something?
No, I can't see a thumbs up from Josh yet, but it's fine.
Did he get sound?
The fact that I can hear
you, can hear me.
The fact that I can hear you. Now Lisa's here. How are you doing, Lisa?
Lisa, hello. Can you hear us?
There's no reason why they can't hear you, Paulette. There's no reason why they can't hear you. I can hear you, so surely.
Yeah, but if Lisa's coming through YouTube or something, not through LinkedIn.
No, Lisa's on LinkedIn. All right, so let's put that on page 5. Anyway,
do you want me to get? Should we ask Joshua to repost it or Lisa to repost it so they know where to come? Because something's gone wrong. No, but we had Sean and Professor Roxana and loads of people said they were coming.
They always do, and they might be here for all we know. What am I looking for? YouTube. Alexis wants the YouTube link, which is easily doable. So let me send
that. Well, look, if we don't start soon, we'll be running late. So shall I start?
Yeah, I say start.
Okay. Well, hello everybody. This is a interesting topic that Annie and I will have opinions on. I'm sure they're going to be differing opinions in some areas. Both of us are psychologists. Both of us have got a lot of experience personally and through the systems that we've worked in. So we kind of come at it from two perspectives. One is a child's mind, what happens to a child, and the other is the parent's perspective. So we've got the two perspectives, and we don't want ever to think we're trying to place blame anywhere here. It's really important that we are looking at this as near on to, dare I say, as near on to impartial as I can be. So it's really about the emotional world of children, family, loss, divorce, and emotional intelligence. They're the kind of key areas that I've looked at. I've got quite a few reports I won't bother people with, but if you want them, you can go and look them up. Today I want to talk about something that affects really everybody. Every human being, one way or another, our emotional world and the emotional world of children growing up in and around us, inside our family, even neighbours and children that you just are acquainted to. We hear phrases all the time like broken homes, single parent families, children of divorced families, or traditional families, traditional. But real life is really that simple. And I think we're all grown up enough to know that, right? So the key for me is, whether you've got one dad, two dads, one mum, two mums, one mum, one dad, nothing is what we would call normal, because there's no such thing. And who's to say which is right or wrong or indifferent? What I will say is that from a child's perspective, family life, and I'm not going to get accused of using the wrong political language, because right here, right now, I don't care. I'm talking about trying to break through all of those barriers and talk about social ideology and children. I'm not trying to get through labeling and all of that stuff, because that doesn't help anyone. So children experience family emotionally. So they experience safety, they experience tension, love, unpredictability, connection, absence, stability, conflict, and emotional security. They're the main things that get used as markers when we talk about somebody who's going to go in and do a social awareness on a child. They could be some of the markers they'd look at. So today is not about arguing that one family structure is morally or normally right or superior to another. What I'm saying is that I'm not advocating against divorce. I'm not advocating for divorce. I'm not criticizing single parents, nor am I suggesting that two-parent house automatically creates healthy children, because we know that's not true either. The point is something much more human needs to be looked at. And that point is children are shaped less by the appearance of the family and more by the emotional atmosphere of the family. So if they're living in a conflict, and a family of shouting and very angry family, that will affect the child, whether there's one parent, two parents, or whatever, and of whatever sex. It's immaterial. Emotionally, that kind of a household would automatically create a child that is going to struggle. And they're going to struggle in ways that you think about necessarily, but they're going to struggle because the appearance of their family is one of like anger and arguing and conflict and fighting. And they go into a friend's house where everybody sits on the table nicely and everyone's talking to each other nicely, they're going to be like, okay, so when does it happen then? You know, what's going on? I feel strange. This doesn't feel normal, right? That's kind of key here. And the reason that's key is because that's when children go, oh, I'm the one that's different. And the point is that children are shaped by what they are around. It requires, to do this properly, and I mean like as if I was going to do a paper on it, I would say you're looking at the psychology, the sociology, the medicinal or medicine, the emotional intelligence, and everything has to work together in order to have that perfect situation for a child to grow up in that is easy for that child to say, I feel safe, I'm safe. So one of the biggest things we must notice, much more than we think, is the misconception adults have in believing children are unaware of emotional change. In reality, children are emotionally observant long before they are intellectually observers. So they hear, they see, they watch. They don't always understand. But from, a baby, that's what they used to do. They know when dad comes home on a Friday that there's going to be shouting because that's how it always is. Or that mum's a nervous wreck because dad's grumpy, or she's bought something she shouldn't have bought, or she's overspent, or, you kind of get a feel for what's going on. You don't even know what you're feeling, but the child will say they always knew. They always knew there was this thing, this unspoken thing that happened. They will, from babies, there are studies that prove babies can pick up on tension, they can pick up on absence, they can pick up on emotional withdrawal, they can pick up on tone of voice, stress, and instability. So from baby to toddler through to young child, a child may not understand what divorce is, or illness, or grief, or financial stress intellectually, but they feel emotional climate around them. That means that whatever is going on, they are fully aware of, but may not able to perceive what that means, but they're aware that something is going on. Okay, so from that we go on to say what neurologically is important in the emotional development of a child, and we say the family environment is key. That's how they learn. That's what their first playbook, if you like, is the home. So whether the world is safe is if the house is safe, the home is safe. Whether relationships are stable is whether the relationships in the home are stable. Whether emotions can be trusted, same again. And whether they themselves are secure and valued. Now, what do I mean by secure and valued? I wrote that because children need to be seen, heard, and valued. They need to feel like they're loved. They need to feel they're important. They have a value in the family. When there is family breakdown, quite often the childhood experience can be very different to that what you or I may perceive. So let's just say divorce and family breakdown to start with. Let's begin with divorce, because that's, or separation or breakup in relationship. It doesn't have to be divorce. It can be just be civil relationship or just a breakup, two people living together with a child. Divorce is one of the most emotionally complex experiences a child can ever go through because it combines several losses at once. Now, if I was to talk to adults about this, I'm sure that their answers would be very similar. But I'm doing everything from the child's perspective, remember. That's my angle, okay? So their daily routine becomes affected. Their stability becomes affected. Their closeness with one parent becomes affected. A sense of permanence, financial security. The family unit, it identifies differently. Something they thought was always suddenly is not. And that's interesting. That always and is not. What does it mean? What does always and not mean? It means something that they thought was always going to be the same way, suddenly not. It's like the carpet's pulled from underneath them. But it's also important to be careful here when we say things like that, because research in developmental psychology consistently shows that divorce itself is not always the greatest source of harm or stress. It might be for the parents and the adults if we spoke to them, but from the child's perspective, in many cases, the deeper damage comes from the chronic conflict, living in a house of chaos, the emotional hostility that would be going on, the manipulation, the coercive control, the instability, children being placed in the middle of an adult emotional battle. That is more destructive than the divorce itself. Two divorces can look identical legally. So legally, they look on paper exactly the same. But emotionally, they can be very different. So if you've got two parents that are very hostile towards each other and cannot get on and will not parent, co-parent is the term we always use, won't co-parent nicely and play nicely, that's one kind of divorce. And when somebody just disappears, gone, that could be a different divorce. But on paper, it looks the same. And am I back?
You're back. I guess I'll talk on mute, which is really annoying.
It came up with the green little lights sort of camera speaker thing, and then a big line came across it, and it all went black.
Yes.
Anyway, we'll carry on. We'll pretend it never happened.
Hold on. Before we carry on, let's welcome Jay. How are you doing, Jay?
Hey.
Glad you're here. Who else is here? So Liana is here as well. I don't know how I muted myself when I was saying hi to everyone just now. So Nadia is here as well.
Hey, hi Nadia.
Alexis can hear us now on YouTube.
Yay.
And Lisa can hear us on LinkedIn as well. So there you go.
Right.
Anyway,
Well, that's a good, right?
Yes.
So where we got to was talking about, just got on to divorce and how two divorces can look legally on paper the same, but when it comes to how they play out, it could be very different. One could be done with emotional intelligence, and they agree to child share, as it were, co-parent. And one child may experience that in a very positive light. Or another situation may be where one parent disappears, doesn't want to know. So calm co-parenting is great, gives lots of emotional reassurance, continued love for both parents, and a stable routine. The other experience could be hostility, abandonment, divided loyalties. Now we know what that means. Parentation, one parent trying to alienate the other parent, emotional chaos where the child doesn't know whether the parent's going to come pick them up or not. I have friends who did this. His husband would say, yeah, I'll be there to take them out on Sunday. The kids would be dressed, ready, excited to see him. No show. 2 broken children. That happened from the age of 7 or 5. And it had a traumatic effect on both of them. 2 divorces, 2 breakups, not the same childhood experience at all. And that is where emotional intelligence really matters. And if I can get through to anybody, that's the one thing that I always say is emotional intelligence matters enormously, because emotional intelligent parenting after separation means recognizing that the child should never become collateral damage within their adult pain. So their adult pain, we know, is going to be awful, but don't pass it on to the child. Children should not become messengers, so you shouldn't be using them. You can tell your mother that, or you can tell your dad that. So children don't get used. They're not therapist children. Children don't want to carry that burden of your pain as their pain. They're kids. They also don't want to be the ones that have to sit and rule in judgment as to who is right and who is wrong. They're both, you love them both, and you don't want to be doing that. And you don't also want to use children as emotional weapons against each other. And that, unfortunately, is something that happens absolutely all the time, and it is awful. And if you know children that's happened to, you will understand what I'm saying. What does a healthy divorce look like? Well, I'm not sure there is one, but I'd say that one without sadness and one where the adults continue to protect the emotional well-being of the children would be as near as I could come up with. A child should be their number one focus, despite the relationship breakdown. A child is made in love, needs to stay a child that's been loved, right? So that's kind of where I see the parental breakdown. Then I want to talk about some other bits that affect family breakdown. So we have critical illness. Unfortunately, Ben grew up with me being critically ill. We have bereavement, and as we know, Ben grew up with bereavement as well. Thankfully, not the loss of a parent, but obviously, family disruption doesn't only happen through separation or divorce. Sometimes families are changed by illness, sometimes they're changed by disability, and sometimes by death. And for children, these experiences can be just as emotionally living with uncertainty. That's something I would say, living with uncertainty. How bad is it going to get? How ill is she going to be? What's going to happen when? You know, those things are always going through a child's mind. And then, unfortunately, death. And for children, these experiences can be just as emotionally disruptive because they alter the child's sense of safety, predictability, and attachment. So Ben used to say to me, "Please don't die." And I'd go in for an operation, and the first person I'd have to phone would be Ben or Charles and Ben to let them know I was okay. That was just the thought of going into have anaesthetic, or when I was on chemo, I'm okay, have platelets, it's fine, I'm fine, here I am, still here. He really became completely and utterly absorbed by what happened to me. So children experience these as disruptors. Now, when I talk about disruptors, they're anything that unsettles something that was a certain kind of way. So a disruptor alters a child's sense of safety, predictability, and attachment. So they will become sometimes quite clingy. They may become more distant because they don't want to get hurt, so they want to push away from. Or alternatively, they'll be looking for safety, which is kind of pulling you together. And for children, these experiences can be, so different. And depending on the age, really it affects everybody differently. But when a parent becomes critically ill, children only begin living with uncertainty long before they fully understand what's happening. They notice things, they see things. My son found out about the word chemo because a neighbour left a message on the answer phone saying, "I'm really sorry to hear back on chemo again." And he was like, "Oh, chemo, I know what chemo is. Chemo is cancer. Oh my God, Mum's dying." Bang. Bosh, 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 jump, dead. That was where he was going. So the thing we've got to get through to understanding is that when somebody is ill, letting them come to you with questions is by far better than them trying to work it out themselves and come to conclusions that are wrong. So they will hear the whispered conversations that you think they don't hear. They will listen to answer phone messages to my detriment. They'll hear there's a hospital visit. They'll see you exhausted. They'll see fear in both parents when you're going in for an operation or the night before. Emotional fragility, where both of you are on edge because of how you're feeling. There may be a financial pressure that we're talking about that they're hearing about. And changes in the emotional atmosphere in the house. Who's going to be there when I get home from school, what's going to be happening, etc. So children have extraordinarily perceptive minds. They will listen to things, piece things together, not always correctly. And instead of us protecting them, instead of us trying to give them no information, you're better off giving them protected truths. So I never lied to Ben. I told him everything that was going on because that's what I was told by Macmillan. Macmillan said, "Stop hiding the medicine, stop doing all of this, put everything on the table, tell him this is what mummy's taking, but you've got to love the medicine because the medicine's making me better. And when I'm sick and ill, that's me getting rid of the disease. That's good. So don't cry because you hate the medicines." So the next morning, in fact, he was awake from school. He came down in his pajamas. He heard me being sick. He was standing by my side with a little glass of water and rubbing my back and saying, "Sick it out, Mummy, sick it out. Get rid of it all and here's some water." And I was like, wow, these guys are talking about. Whereas I was trying to hide everything. So it's about being smart enough to give them enough that they feel safe. They still have the bit of routine. They still have their certainty. Emotional grounding is still there. And illness isn't part of their identity. It's just something that's happening at home with mum or something that's happening at home with dad. But young children may not understand permanence fully and may repeatedly ask when the parent is coming back if, for example, the parent is in hospital for a long period of time, like I was. Even with COVID, you know, Ben was like, well, when's she coming home? When's she coming home? You know, because people were dying all the time and he was hearing it, you know. And they weren't allowed in the hospital. It was very difficult. Older children and teenagers may understand the permanence very clearly if they know that it's an illness that isn't going to get better. They may feel anger, fear, they may feel abandonment, they may feel anxiety, and again, this emotional intelligence becomes critical. Children need to have honest answers, age appropriate always, but honest answers. And the most important part for me would be that when we have the whole idea of telling parents that you must talk to your child about the inevitable, you must talk about what would happen or could happen, that's a big conversation and it requires a lot of training and thought, but it can be done. And I think that I'm going to stop there for a moment because the next thing I want to do is talk about single parent family. I've got a bit of a different take on it. So, Annie, over to you to say some hellos, and hopefully a few more people have arrived.
Right. I'm here.
Charles, can you bring the extension lead, please?
Is he here? Yes. Alexis says the observations are exactly spot on. We like that, of course.
Hey.
Do I need to mute you? Yeah, and Alexis also says, yeah, Alexis also says yes. This, that is true about two different divorces being very different experiences, different dynamics, though seemingly legally similar, or legally and largely similar. The difference between logic and emotion is a key there, right?
100%.
And also, and exactly no show, so parents who don't show up when they say, people don't show up when they say they will, and all that.
Yeah, a friend's son used to get ready on a Sunday expecting their dad excited, and he didn't turn up more times than not. And in the end, they just said we can't cope with the roller coaster of emotions, so they decided to duck out.
Yeah, that means stop that.
But that's sad because it happens. It happens only too often, and it's one of those key things for me where a bit of therapy, family therapy, could resolve a lot of this issue.
Look,
right, we're going to get on to single parents.
Hold on.
Are you ready for that?
Gladys is here as well. How are you doing, Gladys?
Oh, excellent.
Long time. It feels like a long time. And every day to me is a long time, right? Before you go into your single parent thing, I guess the real issue I can see is the child's sense of emotional safety. When separation happens, I guess there's much that we can all do to manage or reduce that, at least moderates that's loss of safety and sense of anxiety about the world around us and what would be.
I drew a picture because I'm very There's a word for it. I forget what it's called.
Visual?
Yeah, visual. That's my visual thing was I had a set of scales. So I just drew a triangle and a line across. And it was about balance, like both parents taking equal responsibility or, understanding. I also drew a line and I put this little kid on a line. It was like, what are you doing? And I was like, my head was going, where are you going with that? And then I was like, tightrope, that child hasn't got a safety net unless you put it there. Unless you put the safety net in place to make them feel seen, heard, valued, and have that emotional security, they will forever feel broken. And it goes with them for life. So it's a very difficult one, but one that nonetheless we need to. I'm not going to hide from anything. And if people are annoyed with me, I'm sorry. But I'd rather literally cover everything, and then we can just say, okay, every possible situation was covered, and we all can work out where we fit in that. All right.
Okay.
So single parent families.
I come back tomorrow.
Now I'm going to call them single parent households. Okay.
And
I'm going to call them that for a reason. The nuance is because it's really important. It really is important. A child raised from birth in a stable single parent home may experience their upbringing very differently from a child who experiences sudden family breakdown and later in life has issues. You might ask, well, why is that? Because ultimately it doesn't make sense, but it absolutely does make sense, because there may be no emotional sense of loss or feeling lost. If you've only ever had mum and that's how it's always been, or only ever had dad and that's how it's always been, then that's family. That's what you know, right? There's been nothing taken from you. You haven't suddenly had it whipped away. So there's no before or after as a comparison. There's no sudden rupture. There's no memory of another family structure disappearing. And for that child, their family is simply normal. And modern increasingly shows that children do not automatically suffer because they live with one or other parent. So one parent families do not come on the scale of problem families. That's really important, because we used to always demonize one parent families, and it's an interesting thing when you do the research to find that actually you were probably wrong. A calm, emotional, secure single parent household can be far healthier for a child than a two parent household filled with fear, hostility, and emotional neglect. And at some time, a single parent often carries extraordinary burdens like financial pressure, exhaustion, emotional overload, the lack of support. When that pressure becomes overwhelming, that's when the child will notice sometimes that they're carrying an emotional load and a responsibility that's far beyond their age. Why am I saying this? I'm saying this because you will, when you read or watch any of these really successful people that have come from single parent backgrounds, they always talk about how hard their mum worked for them and how they always respect and appreciated every single thing they did, because they knew how hard they were working to get them to whatever it was. If you see an actor or a boxer or somebody who's done very well, and they always talk about their amazing mums and what their mother did for them and sacrificed for them. And I think that is also something about growing up emotionally quicker because of it. And sometimes the child becomes the friend, the child becomes the therapist, the child becomes the everything. That isn't necessarily great, because the children shouldn't be the emotional adult. The adult needs to be emotionally controlling of their own feelings. But it's very easy for that child to become the comforter, the peacekeeper, the responsible one, the one that gets the statutory job, the job that helps pay for things, the emotional support system. I'm going to call them a little adult, because I think that's how I've drawn them. As you know, I stick people. And this can happen in, married families, divorced families, single families, one parent families. It can happen pretty much everywhere and anywhere. And I don't want anyone to think that it happens in bereaved families. And it's where we suddenly need to put a lot more pressure on the child. We need to be thinking that that child may sort of suddenly feel, in some way or shape or form, that they cannot upset mum, they cannot let mum down, they cannot let a situation down, they can't do something after school because that puts pressure on mum, either paying for it or collecting them later, or there's just a lot of growing up has to be done a lot quicker than for maybe others. People describe children oftenly as remarkably mature. That child is remarkably mature. Well, isn't that a blinking surprise, right? The reason they are remarkably mature is because they had to grow up a lot quicker. They are wiser, independent, caring, resilient, emotionally intelligent, because they had. But inwardly, they could be carrying anxiety, guilt, emotional exhaustion, hypervigilance, fear of conflicts, and the belief that other people's emotions are actually their responsibility. And that's very much a child in care as well. And many adults carry those patterns for decades without realizing where they began. And when you go and have these therapy sessions and the therapist says, talk to me about your childhood, there's a reason they say that. Tell me about how you grew up. What was it like at home? That's because they're looking to understand the whole you. And that means the you that is damaged, has trauma from that start. And I'm not, again, there's no blame here. This is just what happens when, in certain circumstances, where the children become the crutch of the family. It's so important to think about emotional intelligence, not simply about empathy. Empathy comes as you grow and you understand, but emotional intelligence has to work alongside that. And when you are the bearer of all family emotions, then you are suddenly without boundaries. You are like lost. So children need love, responsibility, and guidance, but they also need permission to remain children. And we do forget that sometimes. Medical and neurological perspectives. This is quite interesting. Again, 2 studies I looked up from medical journals, one and the other neurological journal. Both have different perspectives. They talk about prolonged emotional stress in childhood affects more than feelings. It can affect chronic stress. It can be a stress influencer for life. Your concentration, emotional regulation issues, learning issues, stress hormones, immune function, and long-term mental health. And it can all stem back to your childhood. And children who grow up in unpredictable emotional environments often become hypervigilant. And hypervigilance is a scary thing, because it's like PTSD or CPTSD in a way. You're like, when's the next one going to happen? Or you're almost waiting for the bullets to go across your face, you know, that kind of feeling. They learn to monitor. They watch moods, they watch tone, they watch tension, they watch silence, and they also watch emotional shifts. Like I said, Friday nights, if the dad goes out and gets drunk and comes home, that will be the night that you know you'll be sitting in bed waiting, probably hiding with your head under the pillow. Some become anxious, some become withdrawn. Some children can become overachievers. That was me. I turned all of my issues, and I had bucket loads, into becoming something of myself, making something. Both my brothers did the same. I think it's because you have a feeling of, I will do it despite, I'll do it in spite of what I was told. Don't worry about your homework because it's not important. Just 1 second. Oh dear. Right. Sorry about that. Still got a cold and the sneezes going on. Okay,
it's you rubbing your nose. That's what happened. When you rubbed your nose earlier, I thought you're going to start sneezing soon.
It's tickly. It's all tickly.
Yeah.
I can't explain. It's tickly nosed. So rather than have a child that is an overachiever, that means they become almost lazy, which is not a good thing either, because they don't play. Children who are laser focused don't play. They become overachievers because they have this like blinkered, I've got to do this because, so they'd stop having fun. The other thing that can happen is you can become emotionally numb, and that's terrifying. Emotionally numb is terrifying. We've had, I've actually tried to work with some elected mutes, where people suddenly just decided they're not going to speak anymore. They've decided that. That's it. I'm not speaking. I've had people who are throwers. They just throw everything. So everything has to be taken away from anywhere around them because it will just go across the room. And that's because that's what they observed when they were little. They used to see things flying around all the time. So that's what they used to do. I've got a sneeze coming. I do apologise. Oh, hold on. Oh, sorry. I do apologise for all this fun and games we're having. But at least I'm here. I could have quit, couldn't I? And I didn't quit. I kept going. Right, so where were we? Let me just do that again.
Dignified. I like how you catch it just about in time. Bless you. And he's laughing at you. Well, I'm laughing with you more than at you. Yeah.
It comes in threes. Does that happen to anyone else? 1, 2, 3, always. Anyway, I think we've got them. Right, we've caught all three. So that's good luck. So rather than them becoming, like I said, you know, either emotionally numb or overachievers or withdrawn or all those other things, they often are seen as survival adaptations or they become personality flaws. People see it as a personality flaw when a child can't be a certain kind of way. Now, what does that mean? It means that a teacher might write in a book or notice something about a child pulling the flock out of their top, right? And that is a stress relief, but it's a schema. It's basically something that makes them feel somehow I've got control over this. They might see them just tugging at their hair, and if they're observant, that's the sort of stuff that parents would notice. But school tend to pick up on it, or nurseries first. Spinning is another one. These schemas are ways for children to, I like spinning, and when I spin, I don't think. So what actually matters most? Well, after this long old research, it brings me to a sort of central point. Perhaps we spend too much time debating what families actually are and what they look like, and not enough time discussing how families feel emotionally to the child inside them. So, how does the child feel should always be at the first point of these conversations. And I would say that because I love children, and children are my future, as they say. But we are damaging children without realizing it if we don't understand this emotional intelligence stuff. Because there's no single perfect family. There isn't. There's no perfect structure anymore because we can't find one. What we would have said maybe 50 years, 100 years ago isn't the same anymore today. There are unhappy two-parent families, two-parent households. There are healthy single-parent households. There are amicable divorces, and there are destructive divorces. There are stable blended families, and there are emotionally absent marriages, and there are deeply loving adoptive families too. There are also children growing up in care homes that actually manage to survive. And they survive in a way that they have a different kind of family, different kind of setup, but nonetheless, they survive. And are they better off there than in a destructive household? In most cases, some care homes we'd argue about, but in the main, we would say yes. Human relationships are complicated. Haven't you heard me say that? The evidence across psychology, sociology, emotional development increasingly points towards the same conclusion about children, and that is that they need emotional security more than they need socially perfect families. They need emotional security more than they need a socially perfect family image. They need consistency, emotional safety. They need love. They need reassurance. They need stable attachments and freedom from chronic emotional conflict. Most importantly, they need to know that they are not responsible. That's such a big one for me. I always thought everything was my fault. I still do most of the time. If any technical things go wrong, it's my fault. Most of the time it's not, but I believe that everything's my fault because that's how it always was. It's a childhood trauma that you really have to bite your tongue sometimes and go, hang on a minute, I didn't do that. How can it be my fault, right? But as a child, you just believe that you're responsible somehow. I think in conclusion, and then to bring it onto the Jack and Water book I want to read to you, or a part of, I'm going to get Annie to do some introductions, but I'll just finish up to say that this conversation is not about what is a correct family structure. It's really about the better question of what emotional environment we're creating for children. Children can survive divorce, they can survive grief, they can survive illness, they can survive separation, and they can survive a non-traditional family structure. What becomes much harder for children to survive is chronic conflict, emotional instability, unpredictability, becoming emotionally responsible for the adults around them. A healthy childhood is not defined by perfection. It's defined by whether a child feels safe, emotionally protected, consistently loved, heard, valued, and allowed to remain a child. And perhaps emotional intelligence at its deepest level is understanding that children remember not simply what happened in their family, but how it felt to grow up in that family, how it made them feel. What happened in their family that affected them growing up? Change them. Did they say, I don't want to be a certain way because when I grow up and have a family, I'm never going to have shouting? Or when I grow up, I want this or I want that, you know? Those are the kinds of emotional intelligence that you have in your back of your mind that says, I want something different for me or my children. It felt to grow up inside that is for other people perceived as being difficult, strange, odd, whatever, is your normal. Remember that, okay? What everybody else is seeing from the outside is chaos. That's your normal. And so perhaps it's very difficult for someone to say, everything at home okay? And you go, well, yeah, because it's just normal. That's what happens. You know, might not be normal for everyone else, but it's my normal. You don't know any different. As I said, until you go and have a sleepover at someone else's house and you find out that, you know, there isn't shouting every meal and dad kissed mum, you know. That was a bit strange, wasn't it? You know. I think they're the sort of things that we're talking about as being a bit different. I think childhood is defined by so many things, but the most important thing is that, you know, there are books out there, thank God, now, not just ours, but many others as well. But our books really are about emotional intelligence and trying to help parents manage a situation in the same way a child manages it. So in New House Nerves, we're talking about a child moving into a new house, new area, new school, possibly, but definitely a new bedroom, definitely a new environment. When they live all their life in a previous house, it's huge upheaval. It's not excitement, it's scary. That anxiety can eat away at a child. While everyone around them is getting excited, they are getting more and more scared. That is our New Nerves book. Then the child moved house and then now starts a new school. And you've got Jack and Water New School Niggles, which is all about the transition of starting a new school. Will I know where the loos are? Will I make friends? Will anyone be nice to me? Will I know where things are in the new school? What if I don't have the right whatever? You know, what if somebody won't help me? And in the Banterless Breakfast Mystery, That's a book about bereavement, but it's a story about a bereavement that happened 7 years before. And so it's a very delicate way of touching bereavement, but nonetheless we touch bereavement in it. And how it feels to grow up in that environment. This is Jack realises the first time he witnesses GP, the grandma, on the anniversary of Grandad Starr's death. Grandad Starr died when Jack was very little, so he's only ever been known as Grandad Starr. When he wants to talk to Grandad Starr, he goes outside and looks up, the brightest star in the sky, the North Star. That's Grandad Starr. That's who I talk to if I want to talk to Grandad Starr. That's all he's ever known. Grandad Starr died when Jack was so little he doesn't have any memories at all. And yet he feels like he knows him so well because of everything that GP has spoken to him about. Many conversations they have. We're going to join the story as Jack and Water bedroom, and they're at their old house, and you can't swing a cat, as they say, and he's trying to work out how best to cheer GP up because she's been sad all day. And it's the first time Jack's realised this is the anniversary of Grandad Starr's death. Now, she's always been sad on Grandad Starr's death day, the anniversary of, but Jack's never noticed before. But now he's noticed, and it really has bothered him all day at school. The morning is quiet, there's nothing going on. The noise isn't there. Grandma's just sitting at the table stirring a tea. And you have to see that in your mind's image, that this normal hustle and bustle, radio on, dancing around the kitchen, tossing the toast in the air, catching the pancakes, generally, having so much fun in the morning, and it's silent. And Grandma's sitting there stirring her tea, not drinking it, not saying a word. She's just gone into, I need to just have my time. And she's at the dining room table. And Jack's like, what the heck's going on here, right? Jack goes to school. It plays on his mind all day. He comes home and he decides that he needs to think about this and a bit more. So this is the book, Jack and Water, The Bantless Breakfast Mystery. So it's part of the trilogy. Get them on Amazon. So the only thing I've ever had to care for, apart from giving Boris the old carrot, that was the rabbit that died, was the class stick insect. In the summer holidays in year 2, that didn't go well. One day he was Harold the stick insect. The next day he was just a stick. I'm trying to work out how I felt about that and what happened to Harold. When Ollie Perkins, who's 11 and sits on the row in front, turns around and is dangling over the seat, his seatbelt, and says, would you like one of these sweets? Do you want a Percy Pig, he says. No thanks, I say. I'm not feeling hungry. In fact, today's been a really strange day for me. Rats, I think maybe I should have taken that sweet and put it in my pocket for later. So the idea is Jack gets home and he goes straight up to his bedroom. Grandma is sitting outside on the bench that her husband had made. So Grandad Starr had made this bench. And she's sitting outside on the bench, and he made her this wooden cat that is beautifully made out of wood, and she's sort of stroking this wooden cat on her lap. She's kind of wondering just what's going on in her mind. And he looks out the window and he peers at her and he thinks, oh gosh, what can we do to cheer her up? And he talks to Water. Now remember, Water is Jack's conscious mind and Jack is the subconscious mind. So Jack suggests maybe they'll throw her a party. And Water says, I don't know that that's a great idea. I don't think that GP is ready for a party. And then he says, well, how about I make some cakes or some cookies? And Water says, no, I don't think that's a great idea either. And gradually they sort of sit and work out. And Water says to Jack, I've got an idea. Why don't we just go down and sit with GP? And they go down and they sit with GP. And the part of it that I think is so beautiful during the story is she actually starts to open up to him. GP and Grandad Star must have been such a team, I say after a bit. GP says they had such fun together. They had loads of friends and would go dancing and everything. And GP says that Grandad Star was her #1 fan when it comes to her baking. Sure we shouldn't bake her a cake? No, Water says, you're funny. I don't think we should do a cake. I think we should go and talk to her. But what if she doesn't want to talk to me? I think we need to get GP to do the jiggy jig thing. The jiggy jig thing? Are you serious? Too right I am, says Water, with a matching nod right back at him. Instead of being quiet and buttoning up the corner of the kitchen table, we need GP to put on her big girl pants and face up to her sad feelings. Talking about things always helps. That's what she says. If she can talk through her memories of Grandad Star, then I bet a whole truckload of curly-whirlies will soon catch her in the very act of smiling again. You're so right, says Jack. Let's do it, Water Tater. So Water Tater and Jack go downstairs. And they've got a bit of a giggle on between them because they think this is going to be the solution. And I'm just going to show the picture of GP sitting outside. Just sad. So this is the bench that Grandad Star made that she's sitting on. She's stroking the cat that Grandad Star made because he was a genius when it came to making things, whereas her son is anything but. He is absolutely rubbish at flat pack furniture and things like that, and the story kind of talks about a bit of that as well. So GP loves sitting on that bench. Peeping out the kitchen window, I can see GP in the back garden, sitting on her bench, wearing a bright green cardigan. She's looking up at the sky and stroking Mabel the cat. I wonder to myself, is Mabel her special friend, like mine is Water? Hello, she says, as I sit down beside her. I'm just telling Grandad Star about my day. I think it's been a quiet kind of a day, GP, I say, looking at her sideways. And I realise even though she's got wrinkles and her glasses are a bit wonky and her breath smells of coffee, GP is my most favouriteest person ever. And I love to sit and chatter to her about the world. So it had with a slow nod. I can't think of a thing to say next. But it's okay, because sometimes just being quiet with GP is good too. But then I realised Water's giving me a nudge. And I remember what we talked about and agreed about her getting on her big girl pants and making her talk out loud to me about Grandad Star. So I ask, why is Grandad Star called Grandad Star? Well, Grandad is the brightest star in the sky, remember? Says GP. That's how he got his name, Grandad Star. And he's always looking down on all of us. This makes me think of the swimming pool. If you get into trouble, there's always someone sitting on the side of the tall seat watching you. They wear bright shirt and no shoes, and they make sure that everyone is safe. I wonder if that's what Grandad Star is like. I think a sort of elf and safety in the sky. The elf and safety is a bit of an in-joke. I'm smiling at the idea of Grandad Star in a yellow t-shirt and bare feet. Imagine doing this little piggy rhyme on the toes. I wonder if I should take off my socks and wriggle my toes and make GP smile too. But GP has her eyes closed, and I think it's probably best I don't do that. Instead, I open up Water's loop-de-loop arms and put one around each side of GP in one of his happy hugs. That always makes me feel better. She's a bit wider than me, so his arms don't go all the way round, but Water seems to fit just fine. And gently, I put my head on her knee next to Mabel, the cat, kind of like Banjo the dog does when he wants something, like a biscuit or a wee. That's their dog. Only I'm not looking for one of those. I don't want a wee or a biscuit. I just want a smile from GP, that's all. GP, I know you're feeling really sad today. Mum told me why, I say. You're missing Grandad's Star even more than any other day, aren't you? I can't see if GP has opened her eyes, but I can feel her breathing slow and steady, and I know that she's listening to me. Will you tell me about Grandad's Star? What was he like? Oh, Jack, he was just perfect, says GP. It's been 7 years since he passed away, but I still think about him lots. On birthdays and Christmases, when you bring something special home from school, like the fairground ride I made from matchboxes that we thought would be ace fun for Beatles on a day out, or the time when Mrs. Roper had us all make pretend Viking poo and I brought mine home in my school bag. Oh yes, winces GP. Maybe I'm thinking about the fairground type of one more, she says with a grin. And of course, this day is especially a special day because this is the day that he left us and went to heaven. But you see, the thing I want you to understand is that William, that was Grandad Star's name, his energy is still here, all around us, and that helps a lot. I like to say hello to him when I sit on this special bench. He was my one true love. 42 years together. Even when he had all those funny little habits, bless him. Like what, I ask, wanting to know more. Oh, where there was the way that he would whistle 10 green bottles while he worked, or he'd wear a hanky knotted on his head in the summer, scared of burning his burnt head. Not worried about looking daft. What else, I say, pushing her on. There was a special way he'd drink his tea. I know exactly how he liked it. 2.5 spoons of sugar, sweet tooth, and really strong. Hardly any milk, just a splash. All the more for the rest of us, I'd say, knowing that GP loves her tea particularly wide. Don't get me wrong, he drive me mad sometimes too. Always left the toilet seat up, just like Theo, said I. He'd pick his teeth at the dinner table and suck on those awful lollipops as if he were a 5-year-old, not 75. It was after he gave up smoking. But sugar coming out of his ears. I'm not sure I like the sound of sugar coming out of your ears, but smoking is bad, so maybe that's better. Grandad would always say, life's too short, P, to worry about the silly things. Grandad called GP just P, as she never uses her first name. And I know now that it really was. I'd let him have his lollies for breakfast, if I could. Just have him back with us a little bit longer. Oh dear, GP's grabbed a hanky and is blowing her nose with a huge raspberry. It was meant to be making her feel better. The hanky, I notice, has a W in one corner. I wonder if Water gave it to her. Silly old rascal, GP is saying. I did love him so. Oh no, there's another raspberry. And a big blow. Water whispers something to me that I think I might try to say to GP. I hug myself tighter into her lap and wipe away the damp bits on my cheeks on her skirt, because when GP was crying, it made me cry too. It's so nice hearing how much you love Grandad Star, I say quietly, but I wish that love could be like that baby shampoo Mum uses. No more tears formula, GP? And there it is, a little chuckle. Bingo. Oh, Jack, she says, you make everything so much better. And I sit up and we hug properly, one of those great big hugs. And Mabel the cat and Water are squashed in the middle. Later, after I finished my homework, like always, I came running down the stairs. Theo's music's wafting through the walls. That's his older teenage brother. Tara doing her sit-up exercises in the hallway outside my room, and Dad calls us down for dinner. I'll have to ask him to help me with my sums, I think, as I grab Water, climb over Tara, and thump down the stairs. I just can't understand ratios. It's too hard. There's no sign of GP or Mum in the kitchen. Perhaps they're sitting still on the bench outside. I grab a glass from the cupboard and slush some water in it from the tap. Get on okay with your homework, Jack? Asked Dad. And then they talk about the homework. And then in walks GP. GP says, it's about time to draw the line under the day today. It feels like we need to just get back to normality, she says. So, because fish and chips was Grandad Star's favourite meal, we've been to get fish and chips. And the end part of the story is that so important, and I won't spoil it, but basically what happens is you end up in a situation where that sadness is broken. Sadness is broken, and what it brings is it brings this feeling of it's okay. Everything is okay again. And why is it okay? Because GP drew the line under the day. Nobody forced her into it. GP just felt that was the end of that day. She's dealt with her emotions and she moved forward. And that's the part of the story that is really important to me, is that the grandma decided it was time to call it a day. And have chips, to have the meal, to have a family celebrate. They talk, chatter, and then they all cheers a chip to Grandad Star. Those are the things that are so important, because they are kind of bringing the end of the story to a celebration, which is Grandad Star's favourite thing. And he loves mushy peas, and nobody in the family eats mushy peas, but they buy a portion of mushy peas and they sit the mushy peas in the centre of the table, as if to say, that's Grandad Star's mushy peas. I think it's a great way to handle bereavement, and it's a great way to handle what it feels like before, what it feels like after, what it feels like during, and what keeps happening. There's always going to be the next year, there's always going to be the next birthday, the next Christmas without that person. But it's knowing that you handle it, you get through it, and that everything is okay, makes it all be a story where children can handle that bereavement. And I think that then when anybody else goes, they go, oh, that must be how GP felt. That must have been what GP was talking about. And I think that if you give that book to anybody who's lost somebody or somebody who's critically ill, it's a great way of getting their minds prepared and ready. And if they've gone, then the book helps them understand what death is and why it feels so final. But yet, in GP's mind, she was able to make it so that it felt he's not gone at all. In fact, he's here all the time. And I think that was the part that really helped my son, was that Grandad Star, who is actually the book was all written about, he was the brightest star in the sky, and that's who Ben thought Grandad Star was. And he was very happy with that. And on his family tree picture, Grandad Star was drawn. And the teacher said to me, I said, yeah, it's fine. It's fine. There's Charles's parents, and over here we've got my side was Nanny and Grandad Star. That was it. And you couldn't tell him otherwise. And it gave him solace to go outside and tell Grandad Star about what went on at school, and the same way he talked to Walter. So I think this is really important, that we understand that children need that ability. They need to download what's on their mind, because that's how emotional intelligence grows. It's layered. And the layers become so clear as they grow. As children grow up, they go, oh, I get that now. Didn't quite get it before, but now it kind of makes a lot more sense. And that is emotion. And that, listen, adults are growing with emotional intelligence. I don't think emotional intelligence is talked about or taught or explained, because if we were to use emotional intelligence, there would be a lot less wars, a lot less arguments, a lot less fights, a lot less political differences, because emotional intelligence is all about understanding a critical way of seeing the other person's feelings, the other person's either right. Doesn't mean you're going to not disagree, but it means that you can see a different perspective, which is a lovely way to have a life. On that note, I would like to stop talking. My throat is as dry as a bone, and I'm going to invite Annie back in. How did you get on with my story, Annie? Having published it? Annie's on silent.
No, I'm not sad. It's a well-written book. I love the reference to the shampoo that creates no more tears. That's a brand, isn't it? That's a brand of shampoo, isn't it?
Yeah, it's an actual no more tears shampoo. Yeah.
Children's shampoo here. No, emotional. I mean, it's emotional on every level. It's emotional because I've never seen the book close up on screen before, so it's kind of it's good. It looks good on the back, so I'll take that. Yeah, I guess the stories, is equally impactful, if you want to call it that. Because I think it is bereavement is a version of separate or breakdown. I mean, you said that right at the beginning. It's not just separation, a divorce. Bereavement does bring an end to a relationship that kids will experience. But no, it's a great book, and it's nice to see it on screen. Always nice to have you read it as well, Paulette. Michael says, Habarigani, how you doing, Michael?
Habarigani.
I say, you're better than me, obviously, Paulette. I say, our what to call it, our metaverse guy, David, is here as well. I wonder where he is in the world these days. Is he in Thailand? Is he in South America? Well, you have to connect with him to know, right? How you doing, David? You can't get the Jack and Water books on Amazon, so I put a link in the comments. No, you this is a link. It's a one link, so you get to choose your Amazon store, and it will take you to the Newhouse Nerves book initially, and from there you have to find the button that says book series, because there are 3 Jack and Water books, right? So get your own. Go and get them. A child who can benefit, especially.
And do remember, please, that every time a book is purchased, the money that comes from the sale of those books either goes to Connect Impact Hub, to Martha, to help support homelessness and end homelessness in the US, which is one hell of an achievement to try and even contemplate the idea of that, but she does it so well. And then there's, in the UK, we have a company called Comfort Cases, and the books go in the cases, and the cases of love, and they're basically a rucksack, because children get told in the UK and in the US, here's a black sack, grab a few things and you're out. That's literally what happens.
Yeah.
Even to this day, it still happens. Social workers roll a black sack, whop one off, here you go, throw a few things in, we're out. And we want children to have a rucksack with their own towel, their own blanket, their own toiletry set, a book, a paper, some pens, a new set of pajamas, so they feel as if when they go to this new home that they don't know the people, they haven't got to ask them on day one, because that's difficult. They've got their own stuff, and then when they move on from there, guess what? They can take their stuff in their rucksacks. So the money goes to them every single month. The sales come in, the money goes straight to them in the UK, and in the US it goes to Martha. Now, we really want to see an upturn in the sales, because we feel, I mean, they've all got now 5 out of 5 references. So people have read them, they've reviewed them, they've given us a full, pages and pages of review, and the end result is every school, every child, every therapist, every counsellor needs to have these on their shelves. What a comment to read at the bottom of a review. We couldn't ask. And, sometimes you say, I don't care what the people think. I know there's a need for them. They do a job. But when somebody else tells you that, you feel like, oh, they agree. They see the same things, It makes you feel kind of like, as GP would say, it warms your cockles. And it really does make you feel as if there is some kind of hope And that's what I think Jack and Walter books are about. Hope. HOPE, hope. Giving kids that. You can give a child hope. Guess what? You give them another day. You give them a chance to have a better day. And then the next day might get a little bit better than the one before that. And the next one and the next one. And you just never know. And for me, hope is about having the... And if you've got faith, okay, you can have hope and faith. That would be amazing. But if you don't have faith, hang on to hope and the ability to expect change. Because change does come. Here I am. I'm change. I was that kid. I was that kid who was petrified. I was used as a toy that went backwards and forwards with messages. And then when it all went wrong, you're the one that's left with a parent not speaking to you in the same house in solitary confinement and doing all the chores because you dared to go and see your dad. So, you have to understand that when I'm speaking to you, I'm not speaking to you just as a person who studies psychology or a person who used that in work, which I know you do without knowing you do. My sociological mind, sure, I've used that all my life. My ability to influence, of course. But when you talk about the smarts, my smarts came from needing to be different. I wanted to succeed because people didn't expect me to. They thought I would fail because I came from a broken home. And don't forget that word, broken home. I was 9 years old. I came from a broken home. And that's what they told me. And the expectations went, I was on that trajectory like that. And as soon as I came from a broken home, I went on that trajectory. And then I went into care and I went even further down. And then I was practically on the floor. And in fact, on some occasions, I was on the floor. But the point I'm making is that it proves to you that what I'm saying is right, that children do take it upon themselves to take this, I need to prove something. And is that a good thing or is that a bad thing? I don't know. Being an overachiever, I think it was probably my way of not letting anyone ask any questions because I didn't want to answer them. I was always covered in bruises. I'm not going to say why, but I was. But I fell a lot. That's what I used to say. I'm sure teachers noticed. I'm sure lots of people noticed. But I was such an overachiever. I was so good at school. Why would anyone suspect anything? Kids aren't stupid. They know that if they say something, mum and dad might get into trouble or whatever. So you just put up and shut up. And what I've tried to explain today is that the more we understand the dynamics of families and the way that children are affected, the more we can do a better job as parents. They will then do a better job as parents. It's the age-old thing. You are a product of your surroundings. And what we want to do is let the children who've been products of surroundings that weren't great know that we've got them, right? That someone's got them. Not that they need to just throw themselves into books so that they don't get asked questions. Because that's not right either. Because that child never spoke about their problems. They kept them all inside, blamed themselves, believed everything was their fault, hated themselves, never looked in a mirror. And I remember somebody said to me, Oh, aren't you a pretty little girl? And I wanted to punch their lights out because I thought they were taking the mickey out of me. I genuinely thought they were taking the mickey out of me because all my life I've been told I was ugly. I was the ugliest child on the planet because I looked like my dad. My two brothers were blue-eyed blondes, like my mum. I was dark hair, dark skin, and looked very much like him. And so I was the spawn of the devil. That's what I was told. So I walked around with the label of the spawn of the devil. When you're told you're ugly, you'll believe it. And your brothers then know that the word ugly is the word that really gets to you, makes you cry. So guess what? They call you ugly too. So now you're super ugly. So you never go near a mirror. You know, you wash your teeth under the mirror. You think about the damage that did. And even when Charles and I got married and the photographer kept saying, please smile. I was grumpy as heck that day. I'd never been one to stand in front of a camera. A very brave new world to me. Put myself out there at the grand old age of 60-odd. But you know what? This is something that I wanted to do so desperately so that other children didn't feel the way I felt. I don't ever want a kid to feel like that. And I look in the mirror now. Look at me today. I've got the full glam on, guys. I do this for you, not for me, but I'm learning. I'm becoming a TikTok influencer, just so you know. They're sending me makeup by the I know, don't start. I may be an older generation TikTok influencer, but they're sending me boxes of bits and pieces. I don't know where to stick it. I don't know what to do with it. I have to read the manuals. And I got my 5s and my 3s all mixed up. You're supposed to do a 5 so that the under here. I did a 3 and oh no, the 3 was in the wrong place. So I got this great, I look, honestly, if you could see me, I look like someone crayoned on me. I got 5s and 3s going. I'm looking in the mirror going, how the heck do you blend that out? I'm like, I just had this big brown ready face. It looked hilarious. I had to wash it all off and start again. And then I thought, not doing the 5s and the 3s. I'll just stick with the 2 lines that the lady does. I went to another video and watched hers. Where do you stick this? I said. And she didn't quite rude. But the point is, you know, they don't take it as Paulette's crazy. They say, isn't it lovely that she's finding makeup at this age? I said to them, I'm on screen. I've never been on screen before. I've been on stages all my life, but I've been in front of huge audiences. There may well have been, I think, maybe once or twice large screens at the side of me, but usually there used to be like 1,500 people in a room that I would be doing a training session to, and I was this little person on the stage. Nobody was looking at my face, right? They were laughing at me, laughing with me, and we were getting through whatever we were getting through. And here I am, this close, and he does this thing where he puts me this big on the screen. And I'm like, oh no, he's going to see my 5 and 3s, you know? So now I have to look a little bit more like, don't laugh. If you could see my drawer, honestly, I make you laugh. I've got things in here. I do not know what to do with them. I've got more... I've got things like that. I've got to show you one of them. This one, look how pretty that one is. Look, there we go. I don't know what to do with it. Stay shining. Where do I shine? I don't know. Eyes, nose. I chucked the book away. I need to go online and find out. I chucked the box away. But the thing is, if I can do this, guys, anyone can. If I can come through the traumas that I came through, and be here at nearly 62 years old in July, and looking this youthful, Annie, I'll let you tell me that. with me fives and me
Yes, you look
threes.
super youthful. You're super youthful. How's that?
Youthful. That's because of all the junk I put on my face. But the point is,
Right.
I believe 100% that we are, you as well, we are both examples of failed families, failed systems, but came out okay. Were we overachievers? Is that the reason we've both been successful or had relative success? I think possibly. And I think that what doesn't kill you makes you stronger is an awful, horrible, yucky saying,
It's
right?
true though. It's true
But
though.
in a way, there is an element of truth to it because it does give you the empowerment to do more. Ben said something the other day to me. He said, I'm just so lucky. And I looked at him and I said, why are you lucky? And he said, because I've had a great life. And that was like, yes. He's forgotten my sickness, the illnesses, living with me 3 times last year. They both got told I wasn't coming home 3 times in 1 year. And then what happened in September, May, June, I ended up with the stomach issues and then rushed in with sepsis and exploding gallbladder. And again, do you understand? She might have pancreatic cancer. Could be another. And I can just see their faces, right? They walk in with that same look that says, don't you dare even think about it. That is the look I get from Ben. It's like, it ain't happening because my mum ain't going anywhere, right? And he keeps saying to me, you're going to outlive everybody, you know? And I think he genuinely thinks that's going to happen. And touch wood, it does. And you know something? I think when you hit that point where nothing scares you anymore, I don't care about making a fool of myself with my 5s and my 3s and my videos and making people laugh and, you know, what the heck, eh? It doesn't matter. All that life's about now is having fun, enjoying what time we have on the planet, being as supportive and caring as we can be to each other. And I mean that with all my heart. You know, look around. If you can, support somebody. If you can just check in on somebody. There will be people worried stupid about what's going on in the world at the moment. And they're the ones that I worry about. They're the ones that I think about every day that don't have somebody to talk to about the fears, you know. They don't have a water worked out what water is yet. And they don't understand they can talk to themselves. I do it all the time. I call it a team meeting. But I think it's good for you to voice what's on your mind because it gets it out. That's why a cup of tea and sit and have a chat is is therapy. It's cheap therapy. All it costs you is a cup of tea and maybe a slice of cake. But you know what? That's the sort of thing the elderly would appreciate more than ever because they are sitting at home, most of them alone, watching the news 24/7, not understanding that it is just sending them into a loop. So I say once a day is enough. Find something else. Watch some soap operas or some films or something. If you've got to sit in front of the telly, do that. Or play a game. You know, if you've got one of those gadgets or a phone, play solitaire for 4 hours. It happens, you know. But don't sit and watch the news for 4 hours. That is destructive, right? So what we need to do from today's lesson is really about understanding that families have an impact on children. Children then carry that impact as trauma or negativity or loss into their future life. We need to just make that transition as gentle as we possibly can.
I agree. Look, Felipe, how you doing? I'll come back to you, Superwoman, in a second. Felipe says, great insights that you're sharing as always, Paulette. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
I will say, Paulette is selling books on TikTok. Never my favorite platform, but it's not. She's not just getting goodies
I hate it.
some sort of influencer. No, she's selling more books. So, Felipe, you're an author. You got a kids' book to sell. So just get me more hands. TikTok, it might be the way. I can't promise what they might make you do in return, Felipe. Because yeah, I'll leave that there.
Anything except videos.
I didn't say a word. You don't do anything that you don't do anything untoward, but it's not for lack of them asking you to do funny things. That's the thing, right? I'm just telling our friends so they know what's coming if they do go there, right? Superwoman Margaret, how are you doing? It's been a long time, Margaret. It's been a long time. And I'm glad you're here. Thank you so much.
And they call you babe a lot, Felipe, and you get asked if you're married.
Yes.
And then you get asked if you're happily married and are you interested in something extramarital? And you're like, run away! Block! I found the block button. I make everyone laugh. I'm like, I will only speak to you if you call me babe.
That's just the surface stuff. There's many other things they ask you to be. So let's not go
the pictures. Yeah, we're not going to talk about the
photos.
Yeah,
let's leave them to that one for now. The imagination can run wild, and it is as wild as the imagination can tell you it is. Look, my YouTube friend, please like today's video and comment. So you commented already, but like today's video if you don't mind. Alexis says, I've been an adult and always been the responsible one. Even though you're the youngest, it's a problem. It's a burden that kids have to carry these days, which is unfortunate. And it is down to what we, the parents, do. Professor Roxana, always good to see you. How are you doing? Glad you're here. Now, my American friends, I do seriously appreciate you when you turn up this time of day. It was a bit earlier, right? Because it's very early in US. Sometimes in some places, still now 6 in the morning. Marsha, how are you doing? She says, I still resonate with this conversation as being raised in a single parent household. Thank you for speaking on it. There's a conversation there. I think you give a glorious view, Paulette, of maybe it's not a glorious view. You give a view that I still think is one-sided. I think we have this perception that only mothers can do the job of being a single parent. I think that's not. It's not factually correct in this day and age. So
I did never say that. I never ever said that. I said families come in all different shapes and sizes, and you have one dad, two dads, one mum, two mums, whatever it is. That's your family unit, and that's and dads
there is
can
something.
Do it just as
there's
well.
Something about having two parents. I think, which I speak not because I don't like single parent households, but I speak because I see some people almost saying it's a deliberate choice. It's a lifestyle choice, and I think part of that ignores the damage to children potentially. Children need both parents. Yes, if they're at war, then more for them and more damage to the kids. I agree with that one. But I think it's more the point that we need to come back. The point you're making all the way along, Paul, we need to be more emotionally savvy, emotionally intelligent, emotionally adjusted, emotionally balanced,
aware.
Where we know, because all of this comes down to how we do relationships. And of course, again, we have to go back a few steps and say, if you grew up in a damaging environment, chances are you're going to replicate that damage to others. Which is, I'm sure there's a way of saying that hurt children, hurt people. That's all logic, right? Of course, but
there are studies, Annie, that absolutely prove without fail that a child that's seen things flying across the room will go on to create an environment where there's things flying across the room. If it's a shouty environment, it will be a shouty environment you have. You have to make a conscious emotional decision to say, I'm going to do something different to that. Sean said last week that his wife's family was like that. His family was quieter. He wanted his family to be a quiet family, not a shouty, screamy family. So that was an agreement they made, you know, and he spoke about that, you know, and it takes somebody very strong to say, we're not going to argue about things, and we're not going to do this, and we're not going to do that. What we're going to do is work things out together. We're going to reason things out. That is emotional intelligence, and that is not in bucket loads. You know, you don't get it on the shelves at Walmart. You can't just go in and buy a bucket load of emotional intelligence. It doesn't work that way. Emotional intelligence comes with life and growing and layering and understanding.
They say you can buy it, with a coach, a mindset coach, or you can buy it with,
or books
you can buy it
and things
with a
like
decent
that. Of course,
or decent books, on the topic. But I think, but we do have to make that choice.
Yes.
To be. Stanley Green calls it being less emotionally reactive, less acting on impulse. And for me, look, as a man, I think I'll be honest, you're coming clean at 62, 61, 62 for that, right? Whereas for me, I was a child for many years. Then one day suddenly just dawned on me that I am the problem, and I'm my own problem. I'm everyone's problem in my household. And and I could change that. Just like I could literally decide there and then to be a nicer person, to be more helpful, to be more, to be less angry with myself, and less living off the symptoms of my childhood, and just becoming just a nice person. Yes, it's nice. It's not always easy, but we have to make the choice one day. We all do. And say, I think you said it earlier, when we choose to prioritize our kids' well-being and almost their future, is when we begin to see real change in our households, and it's always creating foundations for happy kids, happy adults. It's a hard one. So Michael, I see you. Michael says, they are his social enterprise network in Uganda they're discussing this issue in respect to disadvantaged children as they help them develop social entrepreneurship mindset. Again, totally. This is my point, Michael. I think that there comes a time when we have to choose to be mature, maybe to bring the better side of us, our best selves to bring our best selves. If we bring that to the home, it's funny how it's spreads to business. Funny how it spreads to our friendships, our relationships across the board. And I think most men think we're just victims of being a man. We're not. No, we have a choice to make. I got friends who tell you my son is just being a man. I'm like, that's not being a man. That's being something with a head at the end of it. I'm saying, really, there's no excuse apart from just being childish. And one day he might get, he might find, the sense to choose another way of being rather than slamming doors, screaming at everyone. He might realize it's all in him, and he must change, not the world must change to make him happy. That's what this conversation really is. And
absolutely. And if you think about it, and I'm going to just say this because I have been in therapy sessions and I've been either observed or being observed, where I've had an adult breakdown because I just hit a nerve by saying just something that's not on the list of questions, but felt like the right thing to say. And I just said, but is this how you grew up? Is this how it was for you? And they just go, yeah. And now I realize my wounds, my traumas, you're calling them, I've now inflicted on my child. And you go, yes. And it's a realization moment, and I can only call it that because it's a moment like almost the penny drops, and they go, oh gosh, all the things that I've done, I shouldn't have done.
Yeah.
But it isn't necessarily that you've been aggressive or violent or bad, or it just means that you've laid the traumas that were at your doorstep on them. You've used them as an emotional crutch. You've used them as your therapist. And the reason they're screwed up is because they weren't emotionally able to handle it. They weren't emotionally mature enough to handle what you was laying on them. And so by making them the messenger between two parents, you've broken that child. And the parents are then like distraught to think that that's what they've done. But they didn't even know they were doing it. And it just felt like the right question to ask to me. It wasn't on my list of questions, but I just looked at this person's soul and I just said to them, you know, did you have a really rough time as a child yourself? And that was it. Bang. The floods. And then the supervisor came in and said, okay, so let's see if we can delve a bit deeper into this. And she told me afterwards that she probably wouldn't have got that. She was proud of me for poking the bear, but I didn't poke the bear in a bad way. I just saw that there was a release needed. And I think that we all can do that. We can all be the talking therapists for each other. If you can't afford a coach and you can't afford therapy and you can't get therapy because of national health, whatever, or you can't afford medical cover in the States or whatever, the point I'm making is find a friend, find someone you can sit and have a chat with. What makes the world a difference.
Yeah. No,
and on that note, Annie, I think we need to call it a day because look at the time.
Yes, don't worry. My meeting started a long time ago. On it, on the hour, But we've done well. We've done well, So I think it's an important conversation.
Well, we were late because you were sorting out your phone,
Yes,
so I blame you for
it's
that.
An important
anyway, on that note,
yes, go and buy the Jack and Water books,
thank you
my friend.
as always, my lovely co-host and wonderful publisher. This wonderful man published this book. I will show you the front cover.
I still like the look
where it says Global.Media. Ta-da!
Yeah, no, there's 3 more books coming
And
out
there they are.
soon.
There's the book, the set of 3 that are available.
Not yours. There's 3 more books coming out soon. So,
Sorry?
we're about to launch 3 more books. So,
yeah. And listen, I support every single book. I support every single, and he will tell you, I will buy it. I've got Felipe's books. I do have Kindle Unlimited, which is rather useful. But even so, I will tell you, I buy the books because to me, supporting each other is so important. And you know what? Your book will do something for somebody that my books won't. And if the children get something from it, then full steam ahead.
I agree.
Full steam ahead.
Look, thank you, as always, Paulette. Thank you for gracing us with your time, and your genius, your insight.
And my bruises.
Yeah, well, let's not talk about those. Go and play with your makeup or something. Go and do something interesting like that, right? No, I'm gonna.
Me 5s and me 3s.
I don't know. I have no idea what you're talking about there at all.
I'm gonna take a picture and send it. You'll just
try not to. I was living quite happily. Josh says thank you. How you doing, Josh? Great to see you. Josh says thank you. Both we are that, my friend. So glad you're doing great. and to all his friends here as well, in case anyone ever our LinkedIn community is feeling left out. Right. So I'm going to end the Jack and Waters song, my friends, and then we should leave before the song ends. Thank you so much. So join us again in 2 weeks' time. You're going to find Paulette online on Monday with a mental wellness room next one. Take care, everyone. Bye, everyone. Yes, it will come on. Restream button, press, do something, press. No, it doesn't want to do anything. Yes, as it does, Paulette, as it does. Anyway, we're there finally. Okay, here goes. Jack and Water book. Bye, everyone.
Walter, #1 bestseller worldwide. Stories that inspire, becoming every child's guide. She teaches resilience, skill by skill, slowing worries down until they're still. Approaching issues with a stronger mind, building generations one heart at a time. When the storm clouds gather and you don't know what to do, take a deep breath, clear your mind, let the answer come to you. Walter's gonna be there in your present and your future too. So just stop and ask yourself, what would Walter do? What would Walter do? What would Walter do? What would Walter do? Not for profit, but for every child's right to handle smaller challenges, to stand and fight. The bigger stuff takes longer, that's okay, but confidence begins with what we do today. Trustworthy souls and integrity shine at Mental Wellness Cafe. She draws the line between drowning in the darkness and finding light. She lifts them up, teaches them to hold on tight. When the storm clouds gather and you don't know what to do, take a deep breath, clear your mind, let the answer come to you. Walter's gonna be there in your present and your future too. So just stop and ask yourself, what would Walter do? What would Walter do? To clear your mind, give yourself headspace to think before you let the pressure make your spirit sink. Self-belief and talking to someone you trust, these are the tools that lift us from the dust. She champions the dignity of growing strong. Every child capable, they belong all along. Generations rising with the strength she's built. Paulette's legacy, a world without guilt. From Huntington to hearts across the globe, her compassion is the thread that she has woven and sewed. Adults and children